afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, I'd like to call the school board meeting to order. And before we start, the board was in a closed session on two cases. Those cases, as a result of the discussions we had, there'll be no action taken tonight. At this time, ask Mrs. Bass to please call the roll.
District 1, Barbara McQuinn.
Here.
District 2, Chuck Shaw.
Here.
District 3, Karen Brill.
Here.
District 4, Erica Whitfield. She is absent but will be calling in shortly. District 5, Frank Barbieri.
Here.
District 6, Marcia Andrews.
Here.
District 7, Deborah Robinson.
Here.
Let the record show we have a quorum. At this time, we'd like to do our the pledge. And we have Tanya Gilmore from our legal department, who is a fantastic singer, who will be leading us in the national anthem. And then we'd also like to wish a very happy birthday to Amity Schuyler, who is our chief of staff, who will be leading us in the pledge of the flag. So please stand for the pledge and the national anthem. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we walk.
Ms. Gilmore is a member of our legal department, and thank you very, very much. This time, we'll do the approval of the minutes. We have one item. Is there a motion to approve item minutes number 1? Motion by Mrs. Brill, second by Mrs. Andrews. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, all opposed, motion carries 6-0. Mrs. Whitfield will be joining us, I believe, after the presentation. So right now, there are just the 6 of us here. Next item are items being added. At this time, we have 5 items added: B2, LAC1, P3, SP1, SP2. Dr. Fenoy, any other items to add?
Not at this time.
And any items to withdraw?
No, sir.
Are there any items the board would like to pull? We have one item that's been pulled, FMPF 1. Any other items anybody wants to pull? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda? Motion by Mr. Barbieri, second by Dr. Robinson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, all opposed. Are there any disclosures or abstentions? Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. I received a phone call from Ralph Arza, a registered lobbyist for the Charter Schools Alliance, regarding item F1 on the referendum.
Any other disclosures? Dr. Robinson?
I'm so glad Mrs. Brill reminded me. I had the same disclosure conversation with Mr. Arza.
Any others? Mr. Barbieri?
I had the same discussion with Mr. Arza.
Right.
And
Mrs. Andrews, Mrs. McQuinn.
I received a call, but we didn't get back to each other for the discussion.
All right, thank you. Any other disclosures or abstentions? Now we'll move on. And I just lost my computer on that, that little, so I gotta go back up and get it. Come on, there we go. There we go. That little bolt of lightning kind of changed it. So we now move to superintendent and board member comments. Dr. Fenoy.
Good evening. Staff, students, and parents for the hard-earned A rating that our district has reclaimed. Please give everybody a round of applause. We had the highest percentage points among the large urban district in Florida and performed higher than our large urban district neighbors in math and science. We also have the highest percentage of A-rated middle and high schools than other large districts. 65% of our elementary schools are rated A or B, which is a 5% increase from last year. 67% of our middle schools are rated A or B, which is a 9% increase from last year. 68% of our high schools were rated A or B, an increase of 5% from last year. These increases don't just happen. They're a reflection of hard work, commitment, and a laser focus on teaching and learning, and I couldn't be more proud of our district. During our next workshop, Mr. Oswald and team will be providing a comprehensive review of our academic data. While many of us were on vacation, the district was also recognized by the Florida Atlantic University Office of Student Affairs as its Employee of the Year. The district's Human Resources Department has really stepped up their presence at the university and increased its attendance at the university's career education workshops, career preparation programs, and job fairs, from 5 events to 28 events over the past 2 years. From those efforts, the school district has hired nearly 400 FAU alumni, including more than 300 teachers over this past school year. I commend HR for recognizing the talent that is being developed in our own community and leveraging this partnership to bring quality employees to our district. I've also noticed on social media that we've had many current employees who have recently earned their college diplomas, master's degrees, or doctorate degrees. And I commend each of you for continuing to better yourself professionally and personally, and to continue to be lifelong learners. Those are all my comments at this time.
Thank you. Board member comments, Mrs. McQuinn.
I don't usually go vague, but this is a vague one because we all know that we have very important issues coming before us tonight. I was going to write this down so that I didn't stumble over the words. But recently at my dentist's office, for a wisdom tooth removal, I might add, there's a sign on her door, and it says, "You'll never regret being kind to one another." And we are not going to agree on, everyone in this room, we're not going to agree on everything tonight. But I think there's no one who would disagree that we all have the same things in common, and that we want our children to be safe and we want them to be educated by the very best educators that exist. So we don't have to agree with one another, but I'd like for us to be kind to one another. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. And so Dr. Fenoy just shared the congratulations that I was going to share. And how can I follow that? So believe it or not, tonight I'm going to pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Andrews.
And good afternoon to everyone. And yes, congratulations to Palm Beach County School District. You are A-rated. We had no doubt. You worked hard, students, teachers, staff, the whole village it takes. The bus drivers, the cafeteria workers, just the entire village. Everybody that works in this building. That A represents all of our work. Congratulations. Tomorrow is graduation. It's a big day for our students, our seniors, the 2018 seniors who went the extra mile to get their high school diploma. Graduation will be held at John I. Leonard High School tomorrow afternoon. I'll be right there in the front to say congratulations to our students. Thank you to the principals and the schools. You worked during the summer to make it happen for the graduates. tomorrow. For all of the students who are attending summer school, you are making great strides to help make sure our students excel academically. I'd also like to say to you that it's getting that time again. So all of you that work in the building, if you haven't taken your vacation yet, hurry up and get it done. I know you're working those 10-hour days, and we need you here to get it ready for school to open in a few weeks, but I encourage you to get to the beach, do whatever you need to do to relax. Take some time out for yourselves. And a special thank you for all of the agencies, for all of the cities. You're getting ready for our students. You're already accepting back-to-school supplies for our children to have a wonderful start of the school year. We appreciate all of your efforts and making sure that you have those outstanding back-to-school bashes where there are many times bicycles given away, computers, backpacks, school clothing, any and everything a student will need to make sure that they start out on a great start for the beginning of the school year. And we want our students to start out great on the first day and end great on the last day. So everyone, enjoy summer. We're going to be rocking and rolling very soon. Thank you.
Mr. Barbieri.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to recognize a couple of schools in my district. First, West Boca Raton Community High School. It has some of the highest scores in the entire district, even beating out Suncoast. So congratulations to the teachers, the staff, and especially Principal Summer out there is doing a great job. Also, Sunrise Park is doing a great job this summer with the migrant children in the camps that they've been doing now. I think it's our 5th year for those children out there that really need the extra attention. So congratulations to Mrs. Steiger and her staff for taking care of our most vulnerable children. And finally, a thank you to Mrs. Paul and our police department for doing everything they possibly can to make our schools as safe as they possibly can be on the first day of school that'll be here soon. So thank you to all of them.
Dr. Robinson.
Good evening. So my Black History fact for this evening is American Beach. And because I did not prepare the kind of presentation that I normally do, I'm going to leave it as an assignment. How about that? And you can find it online. But I just have to also brag, and I'm going to be in trouble because I have an incomplete brag here. I'm not going to brag about all the schools. But I will say, and I'm going to remember this one because I had a conversation with the principal yesterday, Palm Beach Lakes High School had a 92-point gain, okay? Boop, boop, boop. And Roosevelt Elementary has earned the 2nd B in the school's history. Now, you know I hate school grades, right? But they do say a little bit of something, and I want you to know on August 4th, we're going to have a B block party. And anybody who is interested in assisting, I sent my check in today. If you're interested in helping us to fund this party that is so well deserved by the students, families, and teachers, just please let me know. And I'll cut my remarks short because we're going to have a long meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a comment. During the summer, most of the public is not aware of the work that's done by our maintenance, our school police, our cafeteria, all of the different people who are out there working so hard during the summer to get our schools ready for the opening of schools. So thank you to all of those employees who are out there working all summer to do that. I do need to make a statement, and this is a clarification of an article that was in the paper that I think that it's important for us to put on the public record, and that's related to the ongoing administrative case that we have in front of a DOA judge related to Eagle Arts Academy and our decision back several months ago to close that school. And just to give you an update, that school is approximately $1.7 million or $1.2 million in debt at this point in time. Last Friday, they had all of their computer equipment and some of their hardware was repossessed for not paying bills for several months. In addition to that, they had not been paying their rent since last September. And I think the one thing that was not covered in the newspaper article, because this was quoted by the founder of that school, is indicated that the teachers at that school were not being paid because the school district didn't send them their money. What wasn't talked about in that particular comment to the press was the fact that the school district did submit every month last year in FY18 a check to them 12 months in a row the way we were supposed to that would have paid those teachers. It was because of the management issues and issues at that school that they did not make payroll for several months to their teachers. So any indication that the school district, when we sent them money for FY19, is not intended to be spent for FY18 expenditures, especially since they had the money to do that. So I think it's an important piece of information that we share related to that. We also understand that they have been served with a lawsuit evicting them from their building, as well as a lawsuit that was filed from someone who sublet their building for rental and some issues there. So this is a continuing issue. It's unfortunate that it takes as long as it does. We are now in circuit court and in front of the Department of Administrative hearings related to this issue, and it will be several months possibly before we even get a final ruling on this one. But the unfortunate thing is that at no time has anyone been talking about the children at that school who are unfortunately falling victim to the operations of that school. So with that, that's the only comment I have for tonight. I do want to take a moment to do two things. One is our good cause statements related to the items that were added, since there were several. One of us, the advertisement of the tentative budget. Good cause exists tonight for us to add this item in order to comply with Florida Statute 200.065 in the advertisement of the 2019 budget. LAC1, a tentative agreement was reached with the Palm Beach County PBA, and good cause is appropriate for adding this item to the item so that we can start taking the actions that will affect those employees. P3 personnel addendum was added in order for the employees affected in this to take their positions. And then two items that were added, SP1 and 2, related to law enforcement services with the Sheriff's Office and law enforcement. Good cause exists in order for us to be able to negotiate and finalize those agreements prior to the start of school on August 13th. Also, the board every month recognizes employees who passed away during last month, and we have two tonight that we would like to recognize the families. The first one was Johanna Urado, who was a middle school teacher at Okie Middle School. She was born in 1966 and passed away in April of 2018. The other one was Judith Clinic, who retired from the school district after over 30 years in the school district and served as chief academic officer. She was a principal and had many positions and was someone who committed a tremendous amount of her life to the school district. And she had most recently served as the director of the Schoolhouse Museum and Learning Center in Boynton Beach. So at this time, if we can take a moment of silence in remembrance of those employees and their families. Thank you very much. We'll move now to our presentations. We have two. Superintendent Dr. Fenoy, game ball presentation.
Going down on the floor.
And then we have a couple others, so.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, superintendent and staff, and community members. This evening, we have, we were to have two presentations. We do have to reschedule the game ball presentation. We need to reschedule that for another time. But we would like to move into our other presentation, recognizing our two board members for awards they have recently received. First, we want to recognize our board chairman, representing District 2, Mr. Chuck Shaw, who was recently honored by the Palm Beach County League of Cities with his School Board Member Award for 2018. Mr. Shaw received the award as an acknowledgement of his dedication and commitment to children, schools, and the community. Mr. Shaw began teaching in Palm Beach County in 1970, and he has served as an assistant principal, area superintendent, department head, and director of governmental affairs, and he was elected to the school board in 2010. We want to recognize him for receiving this award and for his years of continued service to the school district. With us this evening is Mr. Richard Radcliffe, the executive director for the Palm Beach County League of Cities, and he is here to present Mr. Shaw with his award. Let's give them both a round of applause. Thank you. Yeah, just one more. And to our District 6 school board member, Ms. Marsha Andrews, we are recognizing her for receiving the key to the city of Pahokee for her contributions to Pahokee, its residents, and her continued involvement in the community at large. She is a constant presence in the Glades region, and city leaders have said that when they look up, they can always see Ms. Andrews out in the community working to make a difference. Ms. Andrews was first elected to the school board also in 2010, and she is a dedicated professional with more than 40 years of experience as an educator in the Palm Beach County School District. Through the years, she has served as an assistant principal, director, and chief officer. We are congratulating her this evening for receiving the key to the city of Pahokee and for her ongoing commitment to the school district and the community. Let's give her a round of applause. And here with us this evening, we have the mayor of the city of Pahokee, Mr. Keith Babb, and the vice mayor of the city of Pahokee, Ms. Clara Mervin, who would like to say a few words and present the key to Ms. Andrews. Ms. Mervin?
Good evening, Dr. Fenoy and the school board members. I stand here on the behalf of the city of Pahokee. We have Commissioner Hill here with us and the other elected officials. We also have members from the Glades area that's here with us. It is indeed a pleasure being here this evening to present this award, which is a key to the city of Pahokee, to one of our school board members, Ms. Marsha Andrews. As you know, Ms. Andrews represents the District 6, which includes the Glades communities. We in the Glades know Ms. Andrews has the educational concern for our cities. She knows how critical, important good schools are in promoting the economic development, validity, and image of our city. Ms. Andrews is like a fixture in our community. She attends most of all of our community events. Her presence is well known out in the Glades. Ms. Andrews is not a stranger to the city of Pahokee. So now she no longer has to knock on the doors of the city. She now has a key to come as she pleases. So again, on the behalf of the city of Pahokee and myself, the vice mayor of the city of Pahokee, Clara Mervin, present this key to Ms. Marsha Andrews.
Mr. Chairman, board members, superintendent and staff, and members of the community, this concludes the presentations for July. The Communications and Engagement Department invites you to visit the district website at www.palmbeachschools.org to learn about all the great things happening in our schools, departments, and communities. Make sure to follow us on social media, available in English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole. And we also encourage you to download our new mobile app in Google Play or from the iTunes App Store. Search for School District of Palm Beach County in either store. Thank you, everyone, for your attention this evening, and have a good night.
Thank you very much, everybody. Mrs. Woodfield is on the phone, and welcome, Mrs. Woodfield. And any comments you want to make before we go further?
Hello, Mr. Shaw. Thank you so much for having me on the phone. I just wanted to also add my congratulations to the school district. I'm so very proud of everyone, and I wanted to also make the same disclosure as everyone else earlier this evening that I did speak with Mr. Arza. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to participating by phone.
Thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is our student government report, and since the school year hasn't started, we don't have one. So next month we will have our student government representative. A committee report, Construction Oversight Committee, and that one is in writing, so everybody should have a copy of that. Our next item are speakers, elected officials, and delegates. We have 4. So I'll call all 4 of you. James Gavalos, Alfonso Mayfield, Pat Emmert, Justin Katz.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Superintendent Dr. Fenoy, ladies and gentlemen of the board and honored guests, James Gavrilis, Education Foundation of Palm Beach County. While we often think that the summertime in the world of education is a time for resting and relaxing, not so with the foundation. These are some of our busiest months. I do want to let the board know what is happening even as we speak, during these days and weeks. On the grant side, we are finishing up our grant proposals, which will be submitted to the state consortium of Florida Education Foundations. Through the state funding, we are receiving $224,000, which we then match with local dollars, and we are thankful to all of our corporate sponsors here in Palm Beach County who are matching those dollars, which enables us to give out $450,000 in grants to our local schools in our big grant bucket. There are about 5 or 6 programs throughout the district that we will be funding this year with that $450,000. In addition, I can happily report that we received 68 Go Teach applications, even more than we had last year. Our board and our judging committee are looking at those grants right now, and we have budgeted almost $70,000 to be given away to Go Teach grants. These go to individual teachers in specific schools who have some creative or innovative program that we think is worthy of support. So the foundation is hard at work assessing those. Obviously, as we get ready for the school year, Red Apple Supply Store is gearing up. Last year, we served 32 schools. We were planning to expand to 40 with a very generous grant from the Honda Classic Cares Group. We've added 2 more, so we will be serving 42 schools this year who will receive all the supplies those teachers need for their kids through our Red Apple Supply Store. Ladies and gentlemen, especially those of you who do listen to these meetings at home, any Bank of America branch in Palm Beach County has a Red Apple Supply box, as do many Walmarts and Town Center Mall. Please bring school supplies so that Red Apple Supply Store and the Education Foundation can get them into the hands of the kids who need them most. As I said, 42 schools this year will be shopping at Red Apple Supplies. We are projecting distributing some $400,000 worth of school supplies in the next 12 months. And that's a credit to the amazing people of Palm Beach County and the incredible staff and board of the Education Foundation. All credit to them. On August 1st, we will be assisting Florida Power and Light as some 200 interns will be invading Cross Point to paint, spruce, weed, do whatever needs to be done to bring that school online and ready to go for the school year. So thanks to Florida Power and Light for August 1st. On August 14th and on August 16th, our partners at Office Depot are launching a new initiative called Start Proud. And I'm not going to say anything more about that. I'll let the press take care of that one. But Office Depot wants to make a significant impact throughout the country, and we're honored that they're headquartered here in Palm Beach County, and they want to make their biggest splash right here. So on August 14th, they'll be at Belle Glade Elementary School, and on August 16th at Washington Elementary School. So lots happening with the Education Foundation through the summer as we prepare to carry forth our mission, which is to bring the business community to the world of education. Ladies and gentlemen of the school board, I want to thank you all for your support as I'm just about closing my first year as the president and CEO of the Ed Foundation. Not quite a year yet, but we're almost there. Please always remember, Dr. Fenoy, by the way, we're in competition with you. I spoke at FAU's Career Education Seminar today, and I'm encouraging them to come to the good side of the force. Come to the nonprofit world. But they love the partnership they have with you and the school district, and we're honored to be a partner with you. Ladies and gentlemen, always remember, we are your Education Foundation, serving the needs of the schools, teachers and students, and the finest school district in the state of Florida. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I do want to make note that Jim did that whole thing with all those dates and times and didn't have any notes. So congratulations on that. That was noteworthy.
I can't remember how many kids I have, but I can remember these dates and when the programs are.
Mr. Mayfield.
That's impressive. I'm not going to be able to remember all those numbers. First off, good evening to the superintendent and the school board. I want to, first off, thank the superintendent and Ms. Paul for meeting with me earlier today. I'm coming to speak about the transportation department, and I'm coming to speak about the potential of Shane Searchwell becoming the director of transportation. I want to start from this place, though. Since I became president of Florida Public Services Union, I always tried to work in a way that was collaborative and problem-solving as it relates to the school district. Our members have some of the hardest jobs, and they often go unrecognized, not necessarily by the school board members or by the administration, but by the public. And so we understand that we all stand together and have to be problem solvers of what's in the best interest of our communities, and we believe that. But one of the failings of 2015, 2016, and the debacle around transportation, and I want to remind people specifically what happened. Our members do not do routing. Our members do not do scheduling. Our members pick up the kids. Our members make sure the kids are safe. And in the lead up to that school year, myself and our members on several occasions tried to meet with the administration and point out the problems and offer solutions. We were told very specifically, we do not need your input. We know what we're doing. One of my failures of leadership at the time, and some of you all pointed this out to me, and I never forgot that. You said, Alfonso, we appreciate you trying to be a problem solver. We appreciate you trying to fix the issues and trying to collaborate, but next time be louder. This is me being loud. Shane Searchwell is unfit to be director of the transportation department. And I want to be clear why, because this is not personal. Most of you know me. I don't deal in personal aspects. I deal in leadership. And I want to draw a distinction. Sometimes it relates to leading. We sometimes confuse a bad boss or a tough boss with a bad leader. It's one thing to be tough. It's one thing to hold people accountable. It's one thing to be clear. But to be tough, you have to have clarity of vision. People have to trust you, and you have to speak, and people know that what you're saying is true. In every situation I mentioned earlier, Shane Searchwell was at the center of each of those issues. Now, he was not the leader, and I want to be fair to him. He was not leading each of those issues, but I'll tell you in my personal experience, I will not sit in a room alone and have a one-on-one conversation with Shane Searchwell, because in every instance that I have, a different outcome leaves the room of one that we've agreed upon. So I appreciate the school board for listening and taking this under consideration. And what I would say is this: people can redeem themselves. But it makes sense in this moment and what our vision is for transportation to take feedback and to say, okay, for people who have institutional knowledge of this job, if someone's going to redeem themselves, if someone's going to step up to the plate of being a leader, for them to get the feedback and the data points that you need to be able to say, here's what you need to do to be better. We are an A-rated school district. I have one of your future consumers in the audience somewhere. We want to be the best in everything that we do. Every piece of information that allows us to cull the fat and to be strong and clear, we should take. So I do want to say, because I want to make sure this is clear, the superintendent and I don't always agree, but we listen to each other. We yell at each other sometimes too, but that's the case. And I want to thank you all for listening to me when we called. Let's go forward from here and build something great. And whatever we can do to help, please reach out to us.
Thank you. Ms. Emmert.
And you guys think I'm tough. I'm Pat Emmert, president of Palm Beach Treasure Coast AFL-CIO, and I came here to tell you that our officers and our delegates last night voted to endorse this tax referendum for the schools. We're very pleased, and as soon as you vote for it and get it on the ballot, we'll start working within our four corners to get it pushed forward. And I want you to know the reason you haven't seen me here before, and I've been around 15 years in this position. We usually do not take positions on taxing our members. This time, we think it's crucial. Our teachers need a raise. Period, point blank, that's it. And I appreciate, I had no clue, but that's the major reason. I also happen to see a list of things that might be possible if this referendum passed, and the one that popped out to me was that the school district may be able to employ some mental health professionals to offer assistance to the children that needs that kind of service. And with the way things have been in the just short history, I think that's very important. So, and Ms. McQuinn, you took some of my words away. I was going to say, and I'm still going to say, I agree with you totally about being kind. I did not come here to battle with the business community. I think we all have a place at the table. They've been around. They've always supported the kids and the schools. It's just that we disagree on what the ultimate goals should be. And I would cede the rest of my time to Justin Katz, but he tells me I'm not allowed to do that. So thank you very much. As soon as you get your job done, we'll start doing our job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Katz.
Thank you very much. My name is Justin Katz. I'm the president of the Palm Beach County Classroom Teachers Association, and I've taught high school in this district for the past 10 plus years. So I not only speak from my position of leadership of the teachers union, but I speak obviously from experience. I come here tonight to ask you to support not only the ballot language, but the adjustment in the proposed tax moving forward. First and foremost, I want to point out that fortunately, unlike in other forms of local government, you're not voting tonight to raise taxes. You're voting tonight to allow people to decide how they want to be taxed. So you're extending the democratic process directly to the voters, and for individuals who feel that this is not necessary or they can't support it, they will be afforded the opportunity to say so on the ballot in November, and for those who want to support it, so will they. So I just want to remind you that you're presenting a question to the public to allow them to decide what to do with regards to their pocketbooks and their own money. Speaking to the tax and the stated purposes, there could not be more important issues in the school district than those that are being funded by this tax. First and foremost is the perpetuation of the 600+ jobs that already exist. You know, I've had conversations behind closed doors with staff. If the tax is not renewed, I would not go as far to say that I would expect 600 positions to be cut, but it is inevitable that hundreds of positions would be cut. There would be no way for the district to slash the existing operating budget by tens of millions of dollars in order to balance the budget and keep those positions. So first and foremost, the public has demanded for what seems like 10 or 20 years now to provide more choice and more academy opportunities for students, and that's exactly what that existing quarter mill has done. That's why it's been voted for and renewed over the past 8 years, and that's why this tax needs to be renewed again in November. In addition to those 600+ positions, obviously paramount as a result of a disturbing trend in this country is a need for increased school security. As you know, that the legislature has allocated additional funds, but it simply is not enough. It does not cover all associated costs with putting one school resource officer in each school or multiple resource officers in the higher population schools. The ability to strengthen security in our schools for our students and our employees, it simply can't be understated, and I can't find it plausible that anyone would deny that it's necessary in the wake of the things that we see around this country on what seems like a weekly basis, sadly. Going to the next item that's going to be funded by this tax and what was referenced by the president of AFL-CIO, Pat Emmert, the mental health professionals. There's this weird trend in the legislature that teachers can and will do everything in the world to help the students. And while they might want to, it's not realistic. They already want to arm personnel in schools. They think that teachers could be police officers. Let me state emphatically, teachers are not police officers. They never will be. And that's why we have school resource officers in the first place. With regards to mental health, I'll state the exact same thing. When you go to college to get a degree in education, and many teachers today do not go to college to get a degree in education, they find their way into the profession by way of some other career path, you are not trained to diagnose and resolve mental health issues that lead to mass shootings and homicides. It's just, I can't think of a more complex mental issue than someone thinking it's acceptable to murder scores of people. You can't ask amateurs with limited to no training to be responsible for that. So the need for mental health professionals obviously is well extremely important. And lastly, the teacher pay component. And I'll wrap it up with one comparison. For the past 2 days, I spent my time in budget hearings for the city of Boynton Beach, where I serve as a city commissioner. Through just passing conversation, it became known to me that our one street sweeper position in the city is vacant, a street sweeper, someone who operates a truck. And I asked, just out of curiosity, what does that pay? Because I wanted to know. It turns out that a 15-year teacher right now in the Palm Beach County School District makes approximately $49,000 to $50,000. A 15-year street sweeper in the city of Boynton Beach makes $46,000 to $47,000. I will not belittle or diminish the work of anyone in public works, but I do believe that when you go to college, you obtain a degree, you are involved in the high stress and high workload situations that teachers are, that a $2,000 to $3,000 disparity between 15-year veterans who are operating a truck with a CDL license and what teachers do, it's just, if it's plausible for a teacher to say, I want to quit being a teacher and become a street sweeper because that might be financially more justifiable to them, it's a sad state of affairs for education and the profession. And it lends to the simple fact that nobody wants to do this job anymore. There are better jobs out there, better economically viable jobs out there. So all of the components of this tax, I believe, are just paramount, and I would urge you to support the language and the level of taxation presented before you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That concludes our speakers on delegations and elected officials. We now move to
May I make
the
a motion?
speakers. Mr. Barbieri.
Mr. Shaw, in light of the number of speakers that we have for agenda items, what I'd like to do first of all is make a motion to reorder the agenda to move the item with respect to the referendum to the last item in new business, to make sure that we can take care of the other items that we have staff members waiting to address. That's my first motion, and if I can make it a two-part motion, my other part of the motion would be that we call on agenda speakers to speak when we get to the particular agenda item so that we don't lose sight of what they say by the time we listen to them and then get an hour later to the agenda item. So I make the motion that we reorder the agenda and we move agenda speakers to speak at the time that the board is ready to cover the agenda item.
We have a motion by Mr. Barbieri, second by Mrs. Brill. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Ms. Whitfield, if you're going to vote against an item or something, please make sure you let us know that you want to get involved in that conversation.
Thank you very much.
All right. So the motion carries 7-0. So we will move then into agenda item speakers for any that were not here to speak on the referendum. And I believe there were only two on the list from what I can tell. One of them was a gentleman by the name of Clint Duvo, and he had listed SLAM, the charter school. Right now, if you were going to speak on that one, if it was pulled, that is not an item that was pulled. So if I'm right on that one, then we will just defer that one. And then Don Pearson had a motion or a request to speak on a personnel item.
Thank you. What I'd like to do, since I'm up for two, and I know it's a 3-minute time for this thing, I would like to just take my time for the other one. I appreciate that.
Right. Because we just made a motion that if it's on the referendum, it needs to be done at that time, so you can speak on the personnel item.
Okay, well, Don Pearson, speaking as an individual, Palm Beach Central High School and a CTA member, but I'm speaking as an individual, and I've talked individually with a lot of the members of the board, and what I see happening is very it's enlightening, and it makes me proud to be part of this situation, because my point's always been when you blanket fire or separation of employment 140 people without seeing them or seeing their faces, that does affect people in a negative way, and it filters all the way down to our students. But when my name was on here, I talked to a couple officials from the school district, and the direction they're going, and really trying to make sure that there's a check and balance on these individuals. I'm really pleased with that. So today's been a good day with speaking to individuals, so I just want to commend you for that. I just feel that some teachers, when they get non-reappointed, they don't show up here because they're embarrassed, and that's why they don't show up, and some of them don't deserve what they get. I'm not saying we don't need to redirect people, but I am saying as a teacher, if a student's having trouble, it's my job to try to get them on the right track, and I would like to see us try to get those teachers, whomever they are, on the right track, instead of a blanket recommendation to approve these 140 teachers gone. So that's really what my issue is. And if I can steal a thing from a country singer, and basically to what we are saying, there's a line that he has that says, "Love is more precious than gold. It can't be bought. It can't be sold. I have love to spare, and that makes me a millionaire." If we do that with our teachers, this whole thing it'll be exactly what the mission statement is. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe those are the only speaker that we had that was on an agenda item that was not included. So at this time, we'll move to the consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull any other items? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Mr. Barbieri, second by Mrs. Andrews. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, all opposed. Motion carries 7-0. For the public who was here, everything on the consent agenda. So, Mr. Duvo, the charter application for SLAM CS1 was approved on consent, and all of the other items, we only had one item pulled, and that's an administrative item. So we'll go then to new business. Dr. Fenoy, B2.
Yes, B2. I recommend the board approve the advertisements of the FY19 tentative district summary budget and the appropriate tax notices in accordance with Florida Statute 200.065.
Motion by Dr. Robinson, second by Mrs. Brill. Any discussion? Dr. Fenoy, can someone just give very quickly what that timeline is for the public so that they know when the final adoptions will be done?
Yes, absolutely. Mr. Burke will come forward and make that presentation.
Yes, good evening. Tonight's action is to approve the budget for advertisement. These ads will run in the local newspaper, the Palm Beach Post, and the board is scheduled to hold their first tentative public hearing on August 1st at 5:05 p.m. in this room. And then we'll have final adoption in September. I believe it's September 6th. I need to double check that date, but it's the first week of September after the Labor Day holiday, that Wednesday at 5:05 p.m. as well.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Burke. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, all opposed. Motion carries 7-0. Next item is FMPF1.
Yes, FMPF1. I recommend the board receive and accept the monthly contract and disbursement report as submitted.
Is there a motion? Motion by Mrs. Andrews, second. Mr. Barbieri. Dr. Robinson, you pulled that item.
Yes, my standing objection to the lack of significant progress here is pulled to vote against it.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 6-1 with Dr. Robinson voting against. Next item is LAC1.
LAC1, I recommend the board approve the tentative agreements with the Palm Beach County Police Benevolent Association effective January 1, 2018, pending ratification by PBA.
It looks like there was a motion by the entire board on that one, so let the record show that all members moved and all members seconded that item. Any discussion? We'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Congratulations. Next item is P3.
Yes, P3, personnel addendum. I recommend the board approve the personnel addendum as submitted.
Motion by Mrs. Andrews, second by Mrs. Brill. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 6-1 with Mr. Shaw opposed. Next item, SP1.
SP1, security agreements with municipal local law enforcement agencies. I recommend the board approve the proposed security agreement with local law enforcement agencies and authorize the superintendent and board chairman to execute the security agreements substantially in the form attached.
There a motion? Motion by Mr. Barbieri, second by Mrs. Andrews. Dr. Fenoy, just for the public's awareness, can you just give us a quick, just what do these two items that we'll be facing here, what does this mean?
In our efforts to meet the mandate of the governor's office in reference to making sure that every school in Palm Beach County, School District is covered by the first day of school, we have we are currently in the process of hiring and adding additional forces to our police force. I think the number right now is 75. But in the meantime, between the current number and the desired state, we have worked and come to agreement with local municipalities and the sheriff's office to provide us officers in that time. This allows us, once we are able to hire, we can then pull the local municipalities and the sheriff out of those schools and then only staff them with school police. So this is just a stopgap. And let me say this, I'm very thankful to all the local municipalities and the sheriff, police chiefs for agreeing to work with us in this endeavor.
Any discussion? Just one item. I'd like to request that the superintendent, on behalf of the board, send a letter to either the mayor or the city manager of all the cities who were involved, a letter of appreciation from the board on their help and support on this one. So, Dr. Robinson and then Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. So will these agreements with the individual law enforcement agencies come back to us?
Ms. Paul, will you come forward and speak to the specifics?
No, ma'am. So the intent is to have kind of a template to work with the law enforcement officers, different municipalities and the sheriff's department. And then if we have to make minor adjustments to those agreements, then we're asking that the chairman and, of course, Dr. Fenoy have the ability to sign those.
Okay. To follow up.
Dr. Robinson?
And so my request, if it was not already planned, is that we be notified and given copies of those agreements as they are signed off on.
Yes, ma'am.
With highlighting changes to the template. Anything that is different than the template itself be highlighted, so we're aware that.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Definitely.
Thank you. Mrs. Brill.
Thank you, and I completely support the idea of thank you notes to the municipalities, but just as a reminder, some of us don't have municipalities. So in that case, perhaps you can send a letter of thanks to the sheriff because he's the one that is involved. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes,
so noted. Yes. Okay. Mrs. Andrews?
And just a point of privilege to say that I read in the paper this morning that Palm Beach Gardens is so interested in helping our schools. I don't know exactly how it will work out as to whether they can, actually service all of the schools in the gardens area, but I was quite pleased that the police department of Palm Beach Gardens stepped up to the plate and said it's about all of our children everywhere, and they would be available to do whatever it took with their department to help our schools and our children. So, Ms., would you tell us how that actually works? Is someone going to make a connection with them, and how will that work in reference to what we're talking about?
Yes, we're working very closely with our new chief of police, and he has amazing relationships with all of our municipalities and the sheriff's office. So we talk to them constantly. And we will continue to communicate with him, and by all means, the more the better. So we're very appreciative, as the superintendent has said, with the fact that they have just embraced this new law, and it's just amazing to me. So I want to thank them again, as obviously the sheriff's department too, for just their graciousness as we've moved forward with this plan that really was executed in a very short period of time. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Barbieri.
Mr. Superintendent, if I may ask Ms. Paul, I understand that all of the cities in the county have entered or are willing to enter agreements with us except for Boynton Beach. Can you tell us why? Are they just short on manpower, or what is the reason why Boynton Beach is not willing to work with us on securing the schools?
Well, I don't think it's that clear cut. Of course, they have to look at their requirements similar to what the sheriff's department has done. And so we'll continue to talk to them. And I know our chief, Chief Kitzrow, has reached out to them. And so they'll work something out. I don't think that's going to be an absolute that they won't participate.
If they don't participate, we'll make sure.
We'll be okay.
Okay, but we just need to make sure we have agreements with them like the other cities on how an emergency on our campuses in the city of Boynton would be handled, since they're not
Without a doubt. And they do provide that relationship already. So this is a little different, but we'll work with them.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next item.
SP2, agreement for law enforcement services with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. I recommend the board approve the proposed amendment for law enforcement services with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and authorize the superintendent and the board chairman to execute the agreement substantially in the form attached.
Motion by Mrs. Brill, second by Mrs. Andrews. So any discussion? We'll call a question. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next item, F1. Pardon? Oh, that's right. Speakers. I was getting ahead of myself on that one. I was notified at the beginning of the meeting that we have that we've identified 5 speakers who have indicated they would like to speak and represent all of the speakers who are listed on the issue of the referendum. So trying to manage this, we've got like 95 people listed. So I think that if this is indeed the position that people had taken, then I'd like to call those 5 people, and then after those 5 people have spoken, if there's anybody who had was not part of being represented by this delegation of 5 people, then I'll call on them. So here are the 5 people: Tom Sutterfield, Marlon Font, Mrs. Hughes, Andy Benz, Ralph Arza.
Good evening, board members, Chairman Shaw, and Superintendent Fenoy. I've had the opportunity to work with almost everybody here on the board. Superintendent Fenoy, we haven't formally met, but I'm sure we'll be working together in the coming months. I'm first and foremost a proud parent. All my kids have gone to public schools here in Palm Beach County. I'm also a proud volunteer board member for 2 amazing charter schools here in Palm Beach County. Imagine Chancellor Charter School in Boynton Beach, who's proud to be an A once again, and Glades Academy in Pahokee, which has become one of the shining stars of schools out in the Pahokee area, and we're very proud of the work that school and that staff has done and the teachers have done. I'm also a former candidate for the Palm Beach County School Board. And I'm a 15-year advocate for education here in Palm Beach County. And I always like to remind everyone that I'm an advocate as a volunteer, not as a paid spokesman. I have done this for 15 years, probably close to 10,000 hours of volunteer time over the last 15 years and never taken a penny. This board has responsibilities for every student in Palm Beach County. That's traditional public school students, public charter school students, private school students, and homeschool students. You have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that federal funding and even state funding makes it to every one of these groups, including IDEA funding, which we've talked about in the past. You have responsibility to make sure that those students are in school, truancy, and all the rest. In 2014, I was asked to support the 0.25 millage. I was a candidate at the time. I've never been a fan of higher taxes, but I absolutely supported this because it was a continuation of a tax. It supported our teachers. It supported our teachers in the arts. It supported the physical education teachers. This is a big ask. From a 0.25 millage to a full millage is a 300% tax increase. That is a big ask to ask every homeowner in Palm Beach County to pay, and then selectively say which ones would not be equitably distributed between all the schools and all the students. We need to be equitable for every student in Palm Beach County. You have responsibilities for every student in Palm Beach County, and we need to be equitable across the board. Thank you for your time and letting me to speak and advocate for every student in Palm Beach County. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Font?
Good evening, everybody. Representing my child. I'm a dad. I lived in District 3, and my son's attending Bridge Prep Academy of Palm Beach. And before I begin with my prepared comments, I just want to say thank you for the efforts all of you have made to making this school district an A-rated school district. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of complaints that all of you get. I completely understand that, but I'd like to formally thank you in front of everybody here of the work that's been done this past year, and hopefully we replicate the A rating again. African Americans plus 13%, Hispanics plus 5%. What do these numbers represent? According to the Department of Education, this is a statistical gap that documented in 2014 of students enrolled in charter schools versus traditional public schools. Perhaps marginalized by socioeconomic factors, charter schools have empowered families. The empowerment to make a choice for hardworking middle-class families that don't have the luxury of paying for private schools, a choice for single moms, single dads, to open a door of opportunity for their children, a choice for parents to increase their children's future probability to succeed in an increasingly evolving world, requiring quick adjustments and sharp-making decision-making capabilities to compete and excel. Charter schools anywhere are a politically charged topic of itself. I get it. But why marginalize charter schools from an upcoming funding resolution? And this was crafted by a well-respected Greenberg-Tarek attorney with 40 years of experience. But according to Greenberg-Tarek's website, Elliot Shurker was involved with the public-private financing of a new Marlins State baseball stadium. So why wouldn't he recommend public-private partnership in this case? And what exposure does this current wording have for parents and their kids if, God forbid, the premises of a charter school get compromised? What's the difference between a public school and a charter school? My son is the same as a public school son. I was a public school student. My dad was a public school dad, but now I'm a charter school dad. Now I don't see the difference. So I'm hoping that everybody has an inclusive strategy to this safety funding resolution that you're having, to close the funding inequity that this would create, and disavow the politics of marginalizing. In my opinion, charter schools should be included. I'm requesting your support. Just as some of you or most people come to my door asking for their vote, I'm knocking on your door right now. I'm asking for your support. Whose side are you on? I'm hoping that with this resolution, including charter schools, it closes the funding equity and you ensure a learning environment as every Palm Beach County child should be entitled to. So I'm going to close off with this. From the palm trees in Mar-a-Lago to the sugar fields in Belglade, every student counts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mrs. Hughes.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, everyone. I am a Bridge Prep employee and also a parent, and I would like to address the same issue. As a parent and educator, we need to focus on preventing tragedy from happening again in public or charter schools. We need to remain dedicated and unified on that matter and do what's the best for our children. Both public and charter schools are tuition-free schools, and they need to benefit from this massive reform, which would give peace of mind to many parents, children, and educators, knowing that all children, our children, are safe is doing the right thing. And there should be no boundaries, monetary as well, when it comes down to their safety. Governor Rick Scott stated that his goal is, with the support of all around the state and around the country, that Florida will be the state where parents could say, my child can go to school safely and come home safely. As a taxpayer, and a charter school employee and a parent, I'm happy to contribute to his goal. But also, I would like an equal access to the resources from the School Safety Initiative. We, as a society, need to be focused on kids' well-being, regardless of whether they are attending public or charter schools. Let's have no regrets for the choices that we make today. These are our kids and our future, and we need to do what's the best for our children. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. Mr. Benz.
As the Director of FT and Student Reporting in Palm Beach County. Did that for many years and worked here for a long time. So most of you I know. And I'm currently the board chair of Palm Beach Maritime Academy. I want to talk a little bit about when I worked here. When I worked here, I was in charge of reporting all the student data that went to the state. The only difference between a charter school student and a regular school student was the school number. That's it. There's one data element in the file, the school number the kid goes to, that tells you that kid is different. When he made a mistake down there when he said he was a parent of a charter school, no, he's a public school parent because they are public schools and they are to be funded in an equitable manner. Now, in being on the board I'm on, you know, they brought me in there because there was some financial challenges, which we've gotten under control. We're currently in just as a challenge to balance, you know, how to pay for the additional security or pay for the additional custodial stuff that we have to pay for. I did an analysis because, you know, I'm a numbers guy. I teach school finance, and I know a lot about the funding in Florida. And currently in this proposal, the district's going to get about $960 per student if they share it with the charter schools. If they don't share it with the charter schools, the district ends up with $1,073 per student. One of the things that they've talked about is providing additional salaries to teachers. At Palm Beach Maritime and at most of the other charter schools, I'm sure, we have to pay equivalent salaries to keep the teachers, because if we pay them less, they're going to go work for the district. So I did an analysis of a thing I saw in the paper about how they were going to fund it. If they provided the supplements of $1,000, $5,000, and $10,000, which I saw an article in the paper about, that would immediately cost us $385,000 to implement, using the fourth calculation from this year and using the 2017 tax roll. So it would immediately, there's no way we could pay for that. Additionally, this year, our school safety costs, we have to eat 81. Our school safety costs now have gone up $6.50 an hour. We're paying for 6,300 hours of security because I'm running 2 campuses, and our cost has gone up by $40,000. So, granted, I understand the state didn't give us enough money. They didn't provide across the board enough money to the state to fund school safety. But with that and the paying the teacher salaries, the charter schools won't be able to compete because the teachers are going to leave us. And if the teachers leave us, then the kids leave us. And it's be shared. All charter schools. There's already been a case up in Indian River County that supported that. So I strongly suggest that they take the wording out and put public school students, because charter schools are public school students, and leave it at that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, hi, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Please give us your name, please.
Oh, I was getting to the introduction. My name's Terry Hughes. I'm a Palm Beach County taxpayer, and I have a 16-year-old daughter who attends a very good Palm Beach County high school. So I think it's critical that everybody in this room familiarize themselves with the data before any decisions are made with regard to your proposal to raise taxes. So hat tip to Brian Mudd's cheat sheet and to my friend Jane Justice for bringing out some of this data. Overall revenues, Broward County has received $74 million over the last year and $152 million over the past 2 years. Miami-Dade County, $87 million over the last year, $144 million over the past 2 years. Palm Beach County, $477 million over the last year, $629 million over 2 years. And that represents 50% of the entire budget of Palm Beach County. So per student, Broward spends $8,928, Miami-Dade $9,116, Palm Beach County $15,420 per student. I just think everybody needs to know this. Okay, we are 72.9% higher than the other two counties. All right, so let's take a look at some salaries. And this is public. Superintendent Avosa was hired for $325,000. He brought in two friends, $202,000 and $190,962. I've got other salaries here: $185,657, $185,400,000, $175,000, $100,000, $169,332, $161,600,000, $157,996,000. Do the math, it's like over $1 million. Look, I don't begrudge anybody their money, but it's coming from the taxpayers. So between 2015 and 2017 school calendar year, salaries over $120,000 doubled from 37 staff to 74. Okay, that's $8,800,000. So Palm Beach County has seen a windfall of 16.7% sales tax increase in Palm Beach County, which the Palm Beach School District nets half. I would argue that this places Palm Beach County in a financial position that should enable it to meet all its needs, challenges, and cost increases without blinking an eye. And it alone suggests that other tax increases, or let alone tax increases. So I really just have one question I know you're not going to answer. Where is the $629,000 million being allocated to, if not the retention of good teachers and safe schools? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Arza.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. And when we gave you the 5 names.
Hang on one second. I'll go through the list, so please don't anybody else come up to the front. I'm going to call off people from the list.
Okay.
And so if you all will just wait until your name is called. Mr. Arza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Superintendent Fenoy, and board members. You know, today, as I come before you, and you know, most of you I know personally, I'm a former public school teacher, football coach for 18 years in Miami-Dade. I'm a former legislator, and I also represent about 11,000 of the charter school students here in Palm Beach County. And number one, I would in the motives of anybody on this board on how they would vote on this issue today. I would ask you, as you look at this issue, and who I represent, that if I voted to support this millage the way you worded it today, I would be creating a second-class kind of student in the county of Palm Beach. And I could not, you know, I could not support that. You know, I would want to support the issue, and I would want to be able to be a partner with you as you go to the polls in November, because there's going to be a campaign, like Mr. Katz stated. All you're doing is giving the voters an opportunity. We have never challenged your right as a board to go to the courts to seek relief on charter school legislation that you felt was unfair. You've done that. We have publicly supported you in that. I hate to say this, and you know, we live in a country, like I think I went to the same dentist, Ms. McQuinn, about being nice. You know, we live in a country that we can agree to disagree. And I would hope that we could always agree to disagree in a respectful manner. And I think that we've done that. As I talked to you about the legal expenses, how much money has this district spent going to court to challenge charter school legislation? And look, I'm not a numbers guy like Andy Binns, and I haven't done a public information request to ask this, but it might be close to $1 million. And you've lost every single case. And the courts have upheld the position of charter schools as public schools. So I ask you, number one, to change the language. Number two, I believe that all public school students means all public school students. I would hate to enter in the next what do we have, 120 days of an election, that we would be on opposite sides of an issue. And we would be put in a position, many parents, over 30,000 parents send their kids to charter school. And please always remember, and I say this every time I go anywhere, they only exist because a parent chooses to send their child there every day. It's not a one-time decision, it's an everyday decision. Even with Eagle Arts, which I propose of closing it, because of the mismanagement that was taking place. Parents still kept sending their kids. My question is, what was being offered there by those teachers that those parents still, in the middle of all that mess, still kept doing that? So, you know, Dr. Robinson, I have so much respect for you when it comes to your outspoken nature to fight for the underdog. You know, I'm here today to fight for the underdog, and that's all the public school students who attend charter schools. And thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. That concluded the speakers who had been part of the delegation, so I'll start now with our list of speakers. So if you're going to speak, please raise your hand so I know that you're interested, but only when I call your names. And some of you are listed for non-agenda. That's a later part of the meeting. This is an agenda item. Cindy Falco. Marcy Hersham. Jane Justice.
Here, sir. Here.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, my name's Jane Justice. Mr. Shaw, one quick question. What was that school that you were talking about in bankruptcy? Is that in Palm Beach County?
Yes.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, I know there's, you know, there's a few different reasons why you want to raise taxes here, but there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't. And the first reason, the last meeting, it was mentioned that the schools were overcrowded and that you need to build. Somebody mentioned that, okay? But there was nothing about that in the paper today. Are you planning to raise taxes again, do that one later on after you get the taxes through this time? I'm wondering. Okay, who was responsible for, over the last 8 years for accepting illegal aliens into our schools, okay, over the last 8 years? Sanctuary cities are illegal, and they bring many problems. We've had drugs, sex crimes, and a lot more, okay? And then, not only that, now we have to build more schools, and you're not even talking about that right now. Now, I want to know how many people here live in a gated community, and if you have 3 bedrooms, you invite 300 people into your house to take care of. How many of you do it? Okay, and let me just say this before I go on to the second reason. Illegal is not a race. The second reason you want to raise taxes is because school security. Well, let me ask you something. Why hasn't that been thought of before? Does Donald Trump have to mention it? Nobody brought it up before, okay? And it's $50,000 for a metal detector, and it would cost about $100,000 to have 2 people, for security. Why hasn't this been done? Okay, now that's less. That money, $150,000, is less than 1 salary that Avasa added. Crazy, okay? Now, the state allocated $800 million for the school safety, and I want to know, how much is this Palm Beach County Schools getting of that $8 million? Okay, the third reason, it's real easy to spend somebody else's money, isn't it? Okay, until you run out of other people's money. And I said last time you should get on a bus and ride around this county because we are out of other people's money. Somebody wants to know, how do I manage to do what I do when I'm not, it's really, people, government does not make money, okay? And we all love the children, we all do. So that's not necessary to say. Thirdly, you want to raise for teacher salaries. Well, why didn't you do that before when you spent millions of dollars? Who is this Avasa? He went right out the back door. Does he really love kids that much? He took the job 2 years, he raised his salaries, he's created all kinds of high-paid jobs, outrageous salaries, and now he's out the back door working with the books.
All right, close out. Your
That's
time
too
is
bad,
up.
because let me tell you, I could write a book about all this.
Thank you. All right. Derek Kelmanson, Vasella Hughes, Lauren Hollander. All right, Ms. Falco.
Yes. Hi. I'm a citizen, I'm a mother, and I'm a grandmother. I'm also a senior citizen. I have been taxed to the max. I know that when you're in a different bracket and you make good and lots of money, that you don't feel the pinch. But as a senior, and I'm speaking for many seniors who live on limited incomes, seniors who don't have the money, that you're going to be pushing them out of their homes if you do raise the taxes, and I know that you've already spoken about it. My biggest concern is how you're going to word it where it confuses the public, where they think they're voting no on the tax raise, and it really, you've twisted it to where it says yes. This is a big problem and a concern that I have. I also have a solution for your problem in regards to protecting our schools. I heard on the news that it has been approved that parents can get their licensing to carry a gun. Who better than to protect their children than parents who go to the schools voluntarily, will not cost a dime. We don't have to raise one penny, charge anybody for anything. And these parents who willingly would love to go to guard their children. Now, this has been approved in other places. I heard that it has been done. Also, at the sheriffs, there's already one police officer already donated to each school, which the funds do not need to come from us, the American citizen, hardworking, who's already got a burden on our backs. There are solutions that won't cost money, which people will voluntarily, willingly do, and they love the children more than anyone because they're their children. I'm asking you to stop asking for dollars from us hardworking citizens, especially those who live on budgets because they're retirees and they can't afford to live, and they've bought their homes and they put most of their money into their homes and they're at the very latter end to almost pay, but they can't afford to even live anymore because you're taxing them to death. Enough is enough. Thank you.
Lauren Hollander, Marisol Ciazio, Alicia San Miguel, Steve Hollander. Debbie Schatz, Jennifer Russell, Stephanie Blake, Edna Stevens, Ann Williams Dorsey, Jeremiah Hines, April Rifford, Henrietta Johnson, Paul Sirota, Michelle Tyler, Tisa Oldman, Karen Hardy, Courtney Jacaruso, Eileen Lipson, Nicholas Eves, Elanet Weissman, Angela Thayer, Karen Hardy, Veronica Lisicki, Linda Johnson Ersley, Cynthia Oldano, Kendall Artusi, Ashley Sloan, Ken Campbell, Lynn Tech, Linda Terranova, Cheryl McDonough, George Grosinger, Jonathan Berman,
Hello. Linda Terranova, principal and founder of Western Academy Charter School in Royal Palm Beach. I'm sure, as you know, Western Academy is an A-rated, high-performing charter school, and we are the only 5-star charter school in Palm Beach County. I say this to remind the board that despite what we've been seeing in the news of late, there are high-rated charter schools in this district who are doing the right thing for students each and every day. Our success as an A school is your success in this district. And our students are public school students in this county. There are 500 students at Western Academy whose parents voted and elected for school board members sitting in front of me today to represent all public school students, including their children. Our school parents are tax-paying citizens who this school board will be asking to pay quadruple the tax under this referendum, yet you are willingly and intentionally excluding their children from benefiting from this increased tax revenue. The tax dollars, you have said, will be spent for school safety, to pay for fine arts teachers, and to pay, and to pay for teacher salaries. The district is asking to go from $50 million in revenue from this millage to approximately $200 million. And yet you are purposefully not willing to share just 10% of that public's tax revenue with a select segment of public school district students. You are knowingly discriminating against charter school students just because they are attending a public school of choice. As a taxpayer and a citizen, I find this outrageous, and as a school administrator, I find it inexcusable. You were elected by the people in your respective districts to represent all public school students, and that includes charter school students. You are intentionally not doing so. You are discriminating against a group of children because they attend a public charter school. I took the liberty of looking up the professional standards section on the district website, and I'd like to read to this board what you have stated in your professional standards approach here in the district. And I quote, "Our team of experts approach our jobs with a genuine respect for what it means to be a public employee. Fairness, equity, and due process aren't just words for us. These are the tenets that set the foundation for every aspect of our profession," unquote. I present to this board today that you are not being fair, that you are not being equitable in this referendum, and you are not living up to these very professional standards that you have committed yourselves to uphold. I request that you reconsider and change the language within this referendum to include the public charter school students who are under your sponsorship and who, like all other students in this district, deserve school security, they deserve fine arts teachers, and they deserve to be treated fairly and equitably. I ask you to do the right thing and include public charter school students in this tax referendum. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Cessna, Stephanie Sermon, Cecilia Navas, Marie Plant, Whitney Gonzalez, Monica Strazak, Shadeen Keene, Jessica Gallo, Alessandra Orsiano, Toya Reagan, Rashida Armand, Brandon Morrison, Linda Monda, Rafael Gonzalez, Shireen Bashir, John McCain, Evelyn Benavente, Maria Hernandez, Tiffany Nisi, Karen Satin, Alexander Tusiak, Demia Farmer, Teria Justeline, Karen Petros, Amy Klein, Nikki Massaro, Wenzel Jones, Jody Harris, somebody with a, I believe this is an email address, Simply Skin Organic. There was no name on that one. Jason McCobb, Dania McCobb, Marlon Font, I think already had him, Daniela Schechter, Jennifer Valade, Tatiana Pinto, Kelsey Badolis, Kristen Giovanni, Julie Zenzel, Mitchell Pierce, somebody an email address of Francis72906. Dan Ray, Miriam Oliveira, Summer Marrero, Yacina Perez, Misty Alonso, Jasira Ayaya, Nian Smith, Mike Dowling,
Good evening, board members. I'm Mike Dowling, and I'm here tonight to add my voice to those wanting you to request that the $250,000 property tax assessment be placed on the ballot in November. The students in Palm Beach County's public schools need this money because the Florida legislature no longer adequately funds public education, because the legislature has saddled you and the taxpayers with unfunded mandates, and because the legislature is allocating education money for charter schools. But my request comes with a caveat, that you keep complete control over how this money is to be spent. The for-profit corporations who run charter schools are also here tonight, demanding that you shovel taxpayer money to them without any accountability. Now, many charters make the excellent argument that the money is needed for safety. They're right. And I believe you have a moral obligation to keep charter schools as safe as any public school in this district. Charter school students deserve that. But you must draw the line when for-profit charter operators insist that you use taxpayer money to fill their coffers. The board exists to provide oversight. In the public school system, the administration of the district is accountable to you, and you are accountable to the voters. But for-profit corporations are accountable only to their shareholders. We, the citizens of Palm Beach County, look to you for a plan to keep our children safe. All of our children without exception. But we, the citizens of Palm Beach County, also expect you to be careful stewards of our tax dollars. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Don Pearson, Victoria Thiel, Laurel Bennett.
That's me.
Okay.
Finally.
We're fighting over the chairs already.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
My name is Victoria Thiel. It's my first time here, and I can't add anything to what Ms. Hughes already said about the expenditure of money. I want to know what happened to the last raise, what happened to the 17% sales tax masquerading as a 1-cent raise, clearly a negative result of failing math skills, and the other millions that you got for education. It appears more of the money is being spent on administrators and their generous salaries rather than retention of good teachers, as they can be fired at will. They, not administrators, are necessary. Education that will serve our children to advance to higher education and meet the needs of the job market instead of anti-American, irrelevant subjects or indoctrination rather than education should be your primary concern. I'm concerned most of your focus and needs arises out of flouting the law and making this a sanctuary county. More attention is given to serving bilingual children than providing the services that American children need, so they're getting pushed to the side. The need, as you claim, for more schools is due to the very same sanctuary mentality. You are responsible because you are inviting these people here at our expense. You are harming the seniors in this state. They don't have the luxury of your salaries and have to cut back on food, doctors, necessary medication to pay for your ever-increasing appetite for taxes. You need to learn to live within a budget, as we do, and non-citizen children need to seek their education in their own countries. Have a heart for the citizens of this county and state, and don't saddle us with life-altering expenses which should not be ours or drive us out of the county. I ask you to vote against this.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson and Ms. Bennett.
Oh, go ahead.
Hello, Don Pearson, Palm Beach County school teacher. When you ask what a charter school is, you'll get a statement like, charter schools are public schools. I'd like to give you, the public, some facts, and I'd like you to think about everything you know about a public school and be intellectually honest with yourself when comparing the two. Because charter schools operate with freedom from some of the regulations that are imposed upon public district schools, are they really public? Charter schools began appearing in the early 1990s. They used the title of independently operated public schools. This is what confuses the public at large. They are either not-for-profit or for-profit, which goes directly against the public school model. Charter schools may come up with their own public funding, which goes against the public school model. Charter schools say that they do not charge a tuition. However, they do charge their fair share, and they do charge other things that public schools do not charge. Some charter schools do not require state certification, which goes against public schools. All charter schools are not part of the state requirement system. Only charter schools, retirement system, I'm sorry. Only charter schools that are part of a school district are included. Some charter schools have freedom from meeting certain state or local educational regulations or policies, like some charter schools that open in August and close in December, and they keep the building. Or some charter schools that don't pay their teachers. Some charter schools are nonprofit only in name and are structured in ways that individuals and private enterprises connected to them can make money. Other charter schools are simply for-profit. Charter schools are businesses in which both the cost and the risk are fully funded by the taxpayer. They don't sound like public schools to me. Charter schools did not fully share the PICO funds, which with public schools when they got hundreds of millions of dollars, and the public schools got about 10%. There is a difference, and all I ask the public to do is look at the difference. We're not talking about the students, we're talking about the difference between a charter school and a public school. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bennett.
Okay. My name is Laurel Bennett. I'm running for Florida House of Representatives District 86. So, Marcia, I've seen her out at Winbrook Elementary School, H.L. Johnson, I should say, as well. So this is my district that you're affecting. My husband was a veteran. He did not receive his care from the VA, the benefits that he should have. And my son attended Dreyfus, the School of the Arts, which was a magnet school. I'm for charter schools. The ratings are high. But here's my questions to you. And these are just some simple numbers. You have $88 million in a slush fund, per se. Gas taxes, we pay 52.6 cents a gallon in Palm Beach County. In Georgia, it's 26 cents. 300 people a day are moving into Palm Beach County, 300 people a day into Broward County. So our revenue is increasing. Property taxes, for anybody that owns property knows that they've gone up. We passed the penny tax, which is bringing in $2.7 billion over the next 10 years. We've seen an increase from sales tax from 6 to 7%. There's nothing to say that you must hire police officers, just security. Those 75 people, why don't you hire the veterans? They're already trained. Yeah. And on top of that, I'll even be the liaison. I'm already a member with American Legion. I can go through the Vietnam veterans with you. I'll work with you to bring those veterans in. And what that does is it instills pride back into our schools for our military, our veterans that are home, as well as instilling pride in our military to our students. Then you've got $21,000 was paid over the private member for this poll that you took, but nobody knows who did it. It could have been just one of these gentlemen that was up here earlier. Now let's talk about that bill, the 7026. The Marjorie Stoneman Douglas School Safety Bill Act that was provided the money for the school safety. How much did Palm Beach County get of that? If you take 75 people that you're needing and you want to pay them $30,000 or 40, let's say $40,000, you're looking at $3.3 million. For $30,000, you're looking at $2.25 million. Why in the world are you raising $200 million? Why are you taxing the residents so much more? Why are you raising $150 million on this alone? Additionally, the person who owns a home valued at $300,000 pays $25 per thousand. Now you want to make it $100 for each $1,000, which is an additional $225 a year on that $300,000. Why? We've already heard numbers that your salaries are outrageous. By the way, a state legislator, the job that I'm working hard or campaigning for, pays $27,000 and change. So when you talk about school salaries or teacher salaries at $40,000 to $50,000, I'm like, pretty darn good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent, school board members, Lynn Norman Tech, I was called earlier, and I wasn't going to speak because we had a group of teachers and principals who were so well-spoken and represented their charter schools, their public charter schools. But I had to come up just to clarify some information that this district school teacher gave you, and the facts are this. Charter schools have been in Florida for over 20 years. They are a vital part of the public education system in this state. They're right there with your magnet programs and your amazing public schools and the academies within those schools and your neighborhood schools. Charter school teachers are certified teachers. It is in state statute. Charter schools do follow the law. In fact, charter schools have more accountability than a district-run school. Why? Because 2 consecutive failing grades is automatic closure. And this is something we've always supported, because if you're not serving the students, let's move on. Let's go to another school. There's also accountability measures for capital outlay and that facility funding. 2 consecutive Ds will withhold your capital funding from the state. And I have worked with plenty of charter school offices and districts across the state that will withhold funding from a school and withhold that stream if that school is not doing something properly. And again, that's something that the movement and every teacher and principal that is in here will support. This is not about for-profit nor profit. This is about parental choice and a movement that is strong and is growing and very much part of the state and very much part of every community. This is about parental choice, and those are the parents that pay taxes, that vote, and they vote every day where to send their child. We are talking about parents today, the K-12 parent that is a savvy education consumer, just like the university system parent. No one's going to be assigned to a college. And parents today demand the same thing, and they demand it from you all. I've seen you come up with amazing programs and give parents choice. Charter schools are just another one of the choices. And we work with plenty of districts that are our partners in raising student achievement, in raising money. They know that collaboratively we can do amazing things. But as long as we continue to be them versus us and us versus them, we're never going to move forward. So I'm asking you, let's work collaboratively. Let's put the word charter aside. Just like no one mentions magnet, and magnet programs are going to get some money. This is about students, public school students. By the way, I'm also a charter school mom of 2. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Jack Sandoval. Gordon Longhofer. Henry DiGiacinto.
Good evening, Dr. Fenoy, Chairman Shaw, members of the board, staff, honored guests. My name is Gordon Longhofer, math teacher from Pahokee Middle School. Active member of our local CTA, speaking tonight as a citizen, as a teacher, as a taxpayer. For years, the legislature has cut school taxes. They do it under the guise, and they call it, we're keeping taxes flat. We're not going to raise your taxes. And they do that, and hopefully some of our guests tonight can understand how this works. When they roll back the tax rate, what they're doing is they're rolling the rate to a lesser amount of tax based on a value. That rollback rate has punished schools across the state of Florida since the recession. The Palm Beach Post reported earlier this week, or late last week, I can't remember which, that since 2016 versus the rate that is going to be applied for school taxes this year, if that had been left flat only from 2016 school year, we'd be looking at $175 to $180 million more in the county coffers. We probably wouldn't be here tonight with this issue. My own calculations have gone a little bit further, and the picture is even more severe. Going back to 2012, the rollback rate currently versus the 2012 rate, had that been kept constant, we're looking at upwards of $300 to $325 million more. Now, that's in a very large county, but those kinds of dollars would be for schools everywhere. There would be money to do whatever would be needed to be done, and we wouldn't have any of these discussions. With respect to those who've spoken earlier tonight about percentages of increases, you're always going to get a greater percentage of increase because you base your increase on the prior amount. So if somebody says, I'm going to cut your taxes by 50%, they can cut it by 50%, then they can raise it 100%. Well, then it's the same amount of money. So it's interesting to make sure that we always dig into the numbers. Just to kind of bring this to a real quick close, for me, the legislature continues to underfund schools in Florida. The proposed referendum that you have in front of you tonight does not do anything by you to. And all I ask is that you employ this democratic principle, place this referendum, which is only going to restore less than half of what the legislature has cut from taxes over the last 7 years. It would restore less than half of that. Put that before the voters, let them have their voice, and determine whether or not it is now our responsibility as a county to do for public education what the legislature of Florida refuses to do. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Henry DiGiacinto. I'm a chairman of a charter school called the Florida Futures Academy. It's a credit recovery school. I also have a foundation called the Magna Charter Educational Foundation. And I'm really here basically to ask one or two questions. The first of which is pretty easy to frame. Now, I think what we're looking at is a problem of perception. And so what I would like, if I may, by a show of hands, 4 years ago I was here wearing my hat, charter schools or public schools too, for a show of hands from the board members, who believes that charter schools are part of the public school system?
We won't respond. I'm not going to respond to that.
This is exactly the problem we have with the proper funding of charter schools. And I want to pass it on to the people who saw that no one put their hand up and said they really believe. It's a simple question. Under state law, charter schools are part of the public school system. That's a pretty easy answer. You can debate the tax increases or not, but you can't debate that. The courts have already settled it a couple of times. And the other thing I want to ask is there's been a lot of talking points and misinformation passed around here tonight. And I see it not only here, but in the public and every other place I go. There's a lot of misstatements about what charter schools are and what they're doing. But I'm interested, Mr. Shaw, why you won't answer the question if you believe that or not. Why do you object to stating whether you believe that to be the case or not?
Our standing rules are the board does not respond to speakers.
I didn't understand that answer either. So anyway, I appreciate your time, and I hope you take this to heart, that that's the perception is that the problem's not the tax increase, that the problem is the perception of how the board treats charter schools. Thank you.
Lana Ann Marsh, Justin Katz. Ralph Arza. Okay. But he was listed.
Thank you. Again, my name is Justin Katz, President of Palm Beach County Classroom Teachers Association. Since everyone's clarifying information, I feel the need to as well. I'm in total agreement with one of the previous speakers, who I applaud for trying to engage in political activity by running for the legislature. We do pay our state legislators $27,000 a year, and I think we get exactly what we deserve for paying people $27,000 a year. You have a disengaged, regionally based legislature that makes decisions for, say, the Panhandle or Central Florida, in spite of a massive population and tax base in South Florida. So I agree that legislators are paid a lot less than teachers, and the level of service we get from our legislature is abysmal, so it makes sense. With regards to the actions of the legislature, as one of the previous speakers, Mr. Longhofer, stated, they have substantially cut your taxing authority over the past decade. Every single penny that you have requested locally from our residents in form of the sales tax, this property tax, the proposed increase, is literally pound for pound what they have cut. They've cut billions of dollars from your budget over the past decade, and as a result, we have had to ask for that from the local population. And fortunately, the population of Palm Beach County is one of the most, if not the most educated population in the state of Florida, and they have seen fit to dig into their pockets to allocate personal monies to ensure that our education system is the best in the state of Florida, and it has shown that it can be the best if properly funded. We are an A district. Traditionally, we have been an A district. It's necessary with an ever-increasing population, ever-increasing demands from residents for more programming, more opportunity. It's not what it was 20 or 30 years ago or further back into the past. You used to have to pay for a very finite number of things in a school. You needed a classroom, a desk, a teacher, and a book, and that was it. Today, the technology costs are exorbitant. It's just the cost of business goes up, and when your source for funding constantly goes down, something has to be reconciled. This district would be bankrupt for the actions of the legislature, if not for the charitable contributions through by way of taxes to the system. I think that it's disingenuous to act as though this district is wasting money, because it's not. It's disingenuous. It's disingenuous to act as though this district is failing the community or not producing quality schools and thus quality students. If not for the local population, I'll reiterate and sum it up, we would be in a much worse state. And I don't subscribe to conspiracy theories, but I think that some people in the legislature know exactly what they're doing, and by choking off the funding and putting difficult decisions before local residents, they know at some point in time the residents will fight back and say enough is enough, and then the public schools will suffer and the students will suffer, which is ultimately the biggest crime in this entire endeavor of constantly forcing school districts to seek additional outside funding from the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. It is 7 o'clock, and that's time certain that we have for non-agenda speakers, so we need to hold off on the next, anybody on agenda until after this is done. So
Mr.
Carl
Shaw,
Mahan.
I beg
Carl,
you. I'm coming from a different standpoint. Please, let me just have, I won't even be 3 minutes.
What's the pleasure of the board? Okay, board said yes.
I come before you as a mother of the most beautiful princess.
Speak into the microphone.
Who is 7 years old.
And your name, please.
Lana Ann. If it wasn't for her school, where she goes, Renaissance Charter Central Palm, and her teacher, Ms. Charles, Ms. Diaz, and Ms. Gray, her ASE coordinators, to pick up the slack where public schools unfortunately failed my daughter, and my daughter lost a year of school, her first grade year. Second grade has been all about catching up. If it wasn't for these schools, I wouldn't be able to hold a job where I work at the state attorney's office and practice as well. My husband is a cop. My daughter battles schizophrenia every day. No one talks about mental disability, and I'll be the only one here. I don't want to be that parent 5, 10 years down the road, and I'm not speaking it into my daughter's life, to be on the news and said, I implored the school board to that worked their fingers to the bone, that helped my little Josephina manage her daily capabilities with ADHD as well, low spectrum autism, and I can blurt out 3 other personality disorders that she has. And we don't have one mental disability in our family previously. But my princess bounces between 4 to 5 classrooms every day, and these teachers love her, and they make her feel normal and welcome because they accept her. They put their own money in their pockets to help her by putting Velcro under the desk so she can fidget with her ADHD, to help teach her timeouts, to let her call me on their personal cell phones when they run their data because she's having an emotional breakdown and 2 counselors and 3 teachers can't calm her down. Charter schools deserve every penny if afforded to them. And I don't know what charter school starts in August and ends in December, but I'm pretty sure my 16-year-old would love that one. It's not fair. It's just not. If we have this chance to excel, at least give it a term, or I don't know how it properly works in election period. I don't know the right terminology, but give it a try. See if improvements are done. See if good is done with the money. Allocate it as you will, but hear where the feedback, where it's lacking, where it can be improved. Just give our kids a fighting chance, because I choose charter because public failed my daughter. It failed my 16-year-old son, and I'm a charter parent probably for life, as well as my 2.5-year-old son. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes our speakers on agenda items. And somebody had asked why the board does not respond to questions to speakers. And if I had been given an opportunity to explain, the superintendent will respond to anything. And I think Dr. Fenoy would like Mr. Burke to respond to something. Dr. Fenoy.
Yes, there were 2 statements in particular I would love Mr. Burke to explain for the good of the public. There was some numbers thrown out in reference to the per pupil expenditure the district spends. I would love for him to clarify that number, and then also to inform the public how much money the district received in reference to the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act for security and mental health.
Yes, sir. In response to those comments, I went back and I looked at the Florida Department of Education issues a report every year, so the most recent report would be FY17. You have to wait till all the school districts close their books. So I did a quick comparison of what was spent per student in the neighboring counties. And this is all sources, so it's a lot of times you hear just about the general fund, but this is general fund, special revenue, which is all of our entitlement grants, debt service, capital, everything fully loaded. And when you include all of those sources in FY17, Palm Beach County schools spent $10,903 per student. If you look at Miami-Dade County, they spent $10,902. Broward spent $9,757. And Martin, to our north, spent $11,368. And the variation is really attributed probably to the tax base in each county compared to their student enrollment, and if they do have any additional millages in place that the voters have approved. So you can see there's a pretty tight grouping. When you look in the general fund alone, all these numbers hover in the either around $8,000. To the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act, our school district will receive 2 sources of money. For security, we're going to receive about $5.9 million. That's not even going to fully cover the 75 new officers we're hiring, let alone their equipment, body armor, uniforms, hopefully some vehicles, that type of thing. The referendum we're proposing, we go well beyond that and actually double the size of our police force. To give you some context, the board's currently spending about $21 million to run our police department. This past school year, we received just $4.3 million from the state. Now with this increase, we'll receive about $10 million, but we're going to spend, closer to $28 million, well beyond what the state provides. And of course, we would like, with the referendum proposal, will allow us to do even much more and properly outfit our police department. On the mental health front, that's the second component. We're going to receive about $3.9 million to serve 187 schools and 170,000 students. Now, $3.9 million, that may sound like a lot, but when you start in every school would cost you about $14 million. So we're going to have to be very strategic in how we use those resources, and we're working with Mr. Oswald to do that, but we're going to have, people that are kind of teamed and dispatched to cases when needed, and it's not going to give you that comprehensive solution we'd like to have. Again, another reason for the referendum proposal that we could dedicate significant funding to mental health and make sure that all schools are adequately covered so that every student has opportunity for those services. I do want to point out that there's been a lot of talk about us tripling or quadrupling the taxes. The key figures here really is we have seen perennial tax cuts by the Florida legislature. Their focus has been on cutting taxes. And if you go back just 4 years to your school tax rates, we were able to levy 7.594 mills. Now, for the upcoming school year, we're going to be levying just 6.572 mills. So the legislature has cut our taxing authority by 1.022 mills over the past 4 years. That represents over $201 million a year. So this proposal to go to a full mill means that's a 0.75 mill increase. It's less than what's been cut by the legislature in recent history. And one of the speakers spoke to it. There's been this perennial rollback of taxes, and it has taken a great deal of funding off the table for Florida's schools. That's why we've seen our Florida funding fall from 36th in the country to 44th in the country as of the latest reports, and that's why we have the struggles we do when it comes to balancing the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Our non-agenda speakers, Carl Mohammed, Nina Wilson, Lowell Levine.
Good evening, team players. As we prepare ourselves for the next fiscal school year, 2018 to 2019, I wanted to reflect a little bit that for years we were professing that the school district of Palm Beach County was an A-rated school district, and in that dynamic, we discovered that we were only graduating 22% of the African-American children. And when we talk, we knew that the big ticket this year was going to be safety. And we wanted to bring to the attention, because of the miseducation of our children, we can see that that kind of activity has been taking place in the black community constantly. And I know that it's going to take some kind of special intervention, if you will, to try to help us with our problem that we're having inside of our community. Now, many of you know that the African and African-American curriculum was supposed to be directly responsible for helping you to move everything forward. But because of our slowfulness, we haven't really made that kind of gain. So when we talk about mental health and when we talk about academics, because everybody that I hear tonight are talking about dollars, and it doesn't appear that no one is actually talking about the movement of the children. And we know that at the bottom rail of all of the activity in the world of academia is African-American boys that have been placed in hostile environments. And I'm hoping that as we start this school year, we would really be able to focus on it. Now, Dr. Fenoy, the task force that was organized for the community, the Superintendent Task Force for African-American children, particularly the African-American male child, we started our classes back this past Monday on the 16th. And we're going to need the support of all of you board members to help us to really put some structure in place so that we can ensure that next year, or at the closing of this year, we don't have the same problem for me coming up here asking questions and never getting a response. I'm hoping that we will really work together. I'm hoping that each district would assign someone to the superintendent task force so that we can stay in constant contact with each other, because the children in my community are dying, literally. And you see the ones that you see on television, but I can assure you that even more death is located inside of our community. And we in the African-American community believe that academic education is a ticket that possibly might be able to assist us. And since you are responsible for that, I'm hoping that you will join us. And I pray that y'all have a good start this coming next fiscal school year. And Dr. Robinson, lastly, if we could some kind of way get a real dialogue between you and the gentleman that is running for school board, because it appears that there's a lot of misinformation being given out, about District 7. And I hope that before election time, we can have a real meaningful dialogue, because I think it's critical that we pick the right person as we move ourselves forward in this next fiscal school year. Thank y'all for your time.
Mrs. Wilson.
Good evening. My name's Nina Wilson, and I'm a parent, a concerned parent. I'm here to request their boundary change for my area of address. I recently moved back here to Palm Beach County, and I found out that the school my children are to attend has been changed to Palm Beach Lakes High School. Now, this school is 20 minutes away from my house. Royal Palm Beach High School is 5 minutes away. And I was just flabbergasted why this change happened. Palm Beach Lakes High School is a D-rated school. And I was very concerned about the violence in that area in that school area. My daughter, she is an AP, she takes AP courses, and this school does not provide AP courses. The only way she can take her AP courses is to do it online with Florida Virtual School. So she's very upset. She's so upset that she's becoming depressed about going to this school. Most of the children in our neighborhood do not attend Palm Beach Lakes. They either go to charter, private, or do Florida virtual because of this recent change to Palm Beach Lakes High School. And I was just here speaking for everyone in our neighborhood. Why was this change done? Why can't she go to Royal Palm Beach High School, which is 5 minutes away, and not Palm Beach Lakes, which is, I think it's just not the appropriate school for her to go to. So that is why I'm here today.
Thank you very much. Mr. Levine.
Good evening. My name is Lowell Levine. I am the founder of the 501c3 Stop Bullying Now Foundation, considered one of the top 3 in the country based on the number of children we have helped and saved, connected not only with the IRS, the state of Florida, but connected with the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. You have submitted last year statistics showing there were under 400 bullying complaints in 2017. But the National Center for Education Stats associated with the Department of Education, articles written by Michael Jacobs, a freelance writer for community newspapers, stated there were at least over 2,000. Why there was a difference, I don't know. It could be because of protecting the image, or maybe the definition of bullying is not the same as what it should be. Second, security police. One police officer at a school is not going to help and save and protect your children and your administrators. You need at least 3, 2 inside with dogs and 1 outside. And the reason for that is because here tonight we have 12 police officers or security people for 150 people, but we only have 1 for 2,000 students and administrators. I had the privilege of going to Beacon Cove Elementary School to meet parents on a bullying problem. I just walked around, no one stopped me. I walked to the area where the children were playing and no one stopped me. I went into the front door and it was unlocked and I walked right in. I walked through the hallway, nobody stopped me. There was a police officer on the premises. I could have been a disgruntled individual and I could have probably killed over 100 children just like that. The other thing I just want to explain to you is that my foundation has written articles and has spoken about the elimination of backpacks. Backpacks is a major problem that you're faced with, and I'm recommending that you discontinue backpacks before school starts August 13th. The last 30 killings in schools, 28 of them were carried in with guns, knives, scissors in a backpack, and one was a bomb that almost went off in Louisville, Kentucky. You are facing a major problem. You are facing a mass killing in Palm Beach County. You're not protecting the children, and I'm warning you right now, and I'm putting everybody on alert. It's moving closer to that. I explained to you last time about the 4 children I helped toward the end of the school system, of which one is brain dead. I'm explaining to you today, and I'm trying to be as nice about it and experienced to the people I speak to. You are setting yourself up by having no knowledge of what's going on. I'm willing to help you, but you don't call me, you don't ask me to come in to talk to you, and I'm one of the top experts. Thank you very much for your time.
Kimberly Gubitosi, Mark Pentel, Chris Perryman.
Hi, I'm Mark Pintel. Thank you for having me. And I'm here to speak about the budget and the increase. And I just want to put to rest some of the stuff that I've heard in the room tonight. If you're a plumber, a restaurant owner, a painter, a mason, landscaper, hairdresser, dog walker, electrician, accountant, lawyer, doctors, nurse, pharmacist, you have to have a budget. But I mean, I guess in the school system, we could just create numbers, taxed enough. I mean, how much money do you have to keep taking from us? I moved to Florida because of the tax system and the attack on the legislature saying, oh, we're trying to keep our taxes low, and people saying, well, we need to raise taxes. No, you have to learn to work within a budget. I mean, I don't understand. I have an MBA, and people don't understand basic economics. I have a teacher here was talking about, well, we're cutting back on the services, so of course they have to increase the money. It's not phony money, monopoly money you're working with. You're working with tax people's money. It's money that we're sweating to pay, and it's really an inconvenience, and it's a hardship on people, and you can't just take people's money for the hell of it. It's not fair. It's not just, and it just by saying piggybacking and trying to blame the legislature or blaming other people, you have to kind of rein in a budget. Other businesses and people who make a living, they have to work on a budget. I have to work on a budget. People here have to work on a budget. I don't understand why the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school, they could just create artificial budgets and just create money and make it up. It's not fair. It's not just. And I think that there has to be some sort of accountability. And I ask you to please stop beating up on the taxpayers. Enough is enough. It's easy for some people to say, oh, well, we'll just take $150 million, take the people's money. It's not our money to give away. We don't want to give it away. You said there's a poll here. Who was polled? I wasn't polled. 400 people were polled. Who were these 400 people? I want to know who these 400 people were, because I wasn't polled, and a lot of my neighbors weren't polled, and we don't want these tax increases, and it's just ridiculous. You have to work within numbers. I mean, every other business and everybody else, they go out of business if they don't have the money, but to just try to say, gouge the taxpayer, here we go. Enough is enough. Taxed enough, and this is just, it's not fair, and this has to stop. It's just, you're just destroying people's lives, and it's not fair. Thank you.
My name is Kimberly Gubitosi, and I'm a parent, and primarily this is directed towards Dr. Fenoy, because you have spoken to me before, and there is an ongoing problem, and you all talk about safety, and you talk about taxes, and you talk about money, and you talk about budgets, but you don't talk about the biggest problem you have, which is accountability within your entire Palm Beach County district. And I'm talking from top to bottom. I have a child that's disabled. I moved here under victims advocacy. I risked my family's safety to come here because I have a kid that's been hurt in your transportation system 4 times, sexually abused, hit by attendees, been attacked by the same child twice, doesn't even want to go back to school. And nobody in your administration is held accountable. Not one person, not a police report that's accurate, not a truthful call to CPS that actually states the facts. And I have documentation out the wazoo that I sent to you. That's the problem. So, and we've had a transparency meeting that went nowhere 7 months ago. And a month ago, my son got tortured for 2.5 hours, put in a sleeper hold, because he didn't want to comply with the same boy who victimized him 13 months ago. And nobody's accountable. And I got to watch the 4.5-hour video that I can't erase from my mind now because I saw it. And I only saw it because the ESE director mandated a copy and hid it on his desktop so that the evidence wouldn't go missing again. Because there's been 4 incidences off of transportation where police reports weren't written or they weren't submitted. People weren't held accountable. DCF had to go in and reinvestigate the reports that were generated from your officers. And everybody's protecting Palm Beach County schools like they're a god. Well, you know what? You would be worth that tax increase if you actually protected the kids. So you know what? You have bigger problems than all this political BS. And I hate to say it that way, but I don't know any other way to say it. Because I ran and I spend every year moving to protect my family. Because I'm under victims advocacy, which isn't your problem. But I moved here so that my kids could get an education. And they're not getting it because they're too scared to go. Deal with your transportation problem. Deal with your administrators who lie. Period. End of story. And I'm sorry to be like that, but I don't know any other way to do it.
Chris Perryman, good evening. Thank you again to the board members, Dr. Fenoy, Chairman Shaw. Last month I came to you all and spoke to you as a husband of a teacher who was frustrated by a state law that has been kneecapping the career of our good teachers in this district for the last 7 years, which we know as a tenure and merit law. And I promised one of our board members that I would be here tonight to thank you all because some of you spoke on this issue about non-reappointing teachers, and I just wanted to say thank you and understand that it is critical that we implement some policies and procedures next year before we non-renew some of our annual contract employees, which includes assistant principals, I understand now. So it's obviously easy for me to be biased towards teachers since my mom's family are retired teachers and coaches from the public education system in the state of Tennessee. And as I told you last month, my mother-in-law retired this year after 3 decades as a kindergarten teacher. And obviously my wife was one of the 145 who were non-renewed this year. So this issue is critical to us. And Mr. Shaw, you were in college, but correct me if I'm wrong, but in 1968, when the Florida Education Association and our classroom teachers walked out they walked out because of underfunding from the state at a time when the attendance was rising sharply and our teachers were being paid a low salary with little benefits. And over the last 50 years, we've made a lot of changes, and some changes, obviously, as we've seen tonight, haven't changed much from the state legislature, but we've been putting our students first. And maybe in putting our students first, we put our teachers last. So I hope that next year, when you get your form of non-renewed employees, that you take a moment to think about this summer and how it's affected 145 teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Bermudez.
Hello. My name is Jennifer Bermudez, and I'm a teacher in the district. Life isn't fair sometimes, but I do believe that there are times that we can be fair and make things right just because we know that it's the right thing to do. My sister is a second-year teacher, now going on to her third in our district as well. We actually work in the same school together. Unfortunately, my sister was diagnosed with Crohn's disease a month shy of her 14th birthday, and it's been more than 13 years, and the road hasn't always been easy. Our family has been so thankful for her health insurance. The hospital stays, medicine, surgeries have been less of a burden. Our school district provides health insurance, and it's definitely helped her emerge from my parents' health insurance to her own. Now, the transition went pretty well for my sister, and she was able to continue to see the specialists she sees that are about 2 hours away and continue to receive the medical help that she needs. Now, the reason all of this is important, or why this matters, is because she found out last week that because she is going to be finishing up her master's program and doing an unpaid leave, internship to become a school counselor to better help our students, as she will no longer have health insurance coverage. Our school has tried to do what they can in order to see if there's anything that they could do, and they have been so understanding, but the decision isn't up to them. And unfortunately, for all of us trying to help her with this, there are things in writing that are just simply unfair. I understand that rules are put in place for people and that people just need to follow these rules and policies, but sometimes rules and policies aren't always in the best needs or in the best interest of certain people. As a teacher myself, I can't tell you how many times I've made accommodations because of my students' needs. That's what we're expected to do as educators, right? What is right for one student may not be right for another. With that being said, what is right for one adult isn't right for every adult. In this case, a teacher who happens to have a chronic illness with serious complications in the past. Everyone has different needs. There's something wrong with our system. How can I help to make a change so that this doesn't happen to another teacher in our school district? She doesn't need pity parties or favors, just good health insurance that is going to help her continue to receive the care that she needs. We're talking about more than $6,000 a month worth of medicine if she loses insurance. Medicine that is keeping her healthy and out of the hospital. Medicine that's been working for her body for many years. Why can't we put medicine that's keeping her healthy and out of the hospital? Why can't we put all of this policy stuff aside and give someone what they need? Instead, we tell our teachers to go back to school to better themselves. We tell them that continuing their education is important and it helps them grow. The truth of the matter is, if you go back to school and do those things, make sure that you ask the right people, the right questions before you end up in this situation. Make sure you have money saved and read up on ways that you can avoid this. We require our educators to take internships that require them to be unpaid for months. That is something that she expected from the beginning of her program, which is crazy. Well, that is something that she was prepared for. Unfortunately, lack of knowledge about leave deadlines and misinformation and assumptions about being insured while on professional leave cost her more than she bargained for. She has now had to resign from her position. Could I finish my letter? It's okay, thank you. She now has to, just last week had to write a letter of resignation from her position as a teacher in our school district in order to follow her dreams. How ironic that her dreams bring her right back to this school district as a guidance counselor who has a social work background. How ironic that she is bettering herself and addressing the gap in public schools to support social emotional learning. Yes, instead of lifting her up and supporting her, the system that she has dedicated herself to is actually making it impossible. I was hoping today that for someone to see past all of that and think about what was right here and think about somebody's health and future. So many years dedicated to do better for our kids and their future, and this is how she says goodbye. We need to do better. We need to value our teachers more. The more we value them and respect them, the more they will value and respect the profession.
Thank you very much. That concludes our speakers, so we'll move back to the agenda.
Mr. Shaw.
Mr. Barbieri?
Yeah, Mr. Shaw, if we could get a response back as soon as possible from the administration with respect to the allegations were made at Beacon Cove that a parent walked into that place without anybody checking. And also, I'd like to know exactly what happened to Mrs. Gubatosi's child. So if you could get back to us, Mr. Superintendent, as to the outcome of those two situations.
Yeah, staff is already working on it.
Dr. Fenoy, F1.
Wait a minute, can I say?
Dr.
And I want to add this last issue too. That was a concern. What are the procedures that we have in place that allow that to happen? And I think we need to have a conversation about how to close that hole.
All right. Dr. Fenoy, F1.
F1, under new business, F1, I recommend the board approve the resolution to hold a referendum to seek voter approval to levy 1.00 mills for operational purposes in non-charter district schools for FY 2020, FY 2021, FY 2022, and FY 2023, and authorize the chairman and superintendent to sign all necessary documents.
Is there a motion? Motion by Mrs. Brill, second by Dr. Robinson. Any discussion? Mrs. Brill.
Okay, so here are my thoughts, and please indulge me for a few moments. I've given a lot of thought to the different matters involved. As I said before, I'm not a fan of raising taxes, but unfortunately the changes in the world have been brought to our doorstep. We now have to make changes to our schools that just a few years ago were unimaginable. Add to that the mandates handed down by our legislature, making the hiring and retention of teachers incredibly difficult. We have no choice. We need our village, our taxpayers, to help. As stated by some of the speakers, we are not actually raising taxes. We are asking the voters for assistance, and the voters will make the decision. As a mother and a community member, I believe that all children and all teachers deserve equal treatment. At the last meeting, all of us agreed that all public school students, including charter school students, deserve a safe and secure learning environment. To that end, we asked staff to work with the charter schools to craft some type of agreement to assist with security. I trust that effort will continue. The discussion tonight is not whether we are pro-charter schools or anti-charter schools. The discussion is about taxpayer dollars, our fiduciary responsibility to our constituents, and the requirements of Florida statute. No doubt there are ambiguities in the statutes. However, after reviewing them, along with the legal opinions and the discussions of non-voted current operating discretionary millage versus voted discretionary millage, I have to agree with the attorney at Greenberg-Traurig with regard to what the law requires. So where does that put us? In an ideal world, we could selectively choose to share the funds with the charter schools that are properly managed and financially sound. But we can't do that. The law does not allow that. There is nothing in the law that would permit us to pick and choose who gets the money, and I cannot sit up here as a board member and give money to any unstable charter school that blatantly misuses public funds like the one currently in the news. We owe that to our taxpayers. Regarding any threats of a lawsuit, if the charter school advocates believe that the law requires us to share this future millage, then why would they keep the referendum off the ballot? It makes no sense. If the referendum passes and they sue us, there is something for them to possibly win. For me, the elephant in the room is what happens if the referendum does not pass? What is our contingency plan? So, Mr. Burke, I hope this day doesn't come. But should this referendum fail, I ask that you be prepared to tell us what you propose in order for us to retain those 650-plus classroom teachers, art, music, PE, career, and academic programs should this referendum fail. Obviously, that's not the scenario we want, but we have to be prepared. Thank you.
Mrs. Whitfield.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shaw. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to make a few comments. Many of my comments are similar to Mrs. Brill, and I will try to keep this brief, but I feel very strongly that I need to make a comment on this issue. First of all, I want to say that there is really no perfect answer to this question. I have spent this last few months really delving into it and looking for every single way that we could do the best job we possibly can to protect our students. I believe that all students are worth protecting, and our charter schools are included in that. However, I'm very stuck on this, I have to say. There's so many great charters in Palm Beach County, but there are a few bad actors in this county, and I am frustrated because I feel like I would like to include everyone. I'm inclusive in the way that I feel about our students. However, in this question here, I keep going back to the one difficult charter we're having right now that we're in the lawsuit with. We pay almost $250,000 a month in this time that we're waiting to get through this termination of that school. It's a school that we know is not doing well, and yet we are forced as a school district to pay so much money to someone that I don't believe deserves it anymore. And it is very frustrating for me to lose that money and to realize that the true question here is, what is the job of a school board member? And to me, the real job of a school board member is to be the best stewards of the money that the taxpayers are giving us. So in this question, I feel that we have to go forward to ask the public for this money. And I think that though it pains me to do so, I do not want to include the charter schools in that. It is not It is not for the people who are doing a great job and the students who are working so hard in those schools. It is because I just cannot be assured that the funding is being used to the best of the ability. So this ballot language is a binding agreement with our community, and I believe that we have to do it as forthright as we possibly can, really respecting the responsibility that we have been given. So I really do want to thank everyone in that room today who has come to speak. I take your comments very, very seriously. And to all of our staff out there who has worked so much on this, I just want to say thank you as well. Thank you for letting me share my comments.
Thank you. Mr. Burke, you think you had a comment?
Yes, thank you. I just want the board to be clear on the implications and the stakes involved with this referendum as a follow-up to Ms. Brill's question there. If this referendum does not pass, hard times are going to fall on Palm Beach County. This represents $48 million. We would immediately have to start cutting $48 million from the following school year budget, which is the 1920 school year. Teachers represent the biggest part of our budget. This is a list, 8-page list of the teachers funded by the quarter mill that's in place. This list was approved by the Independent Referendum Oversight Committee back in April. So all of these jobs are in jeopardy. You cannot cut $48 million and safeguard these 650 plus teachers in the classroom. We will scour the entire budget. The administration and departments represent a small share of this budget. So I want to be realistic. We are not going to be able to cut this out of department cuts. Any thought of a raise in the foreseeable future will be gone. It will not be possible. So I just want to keep the perspective there. The stakes are incredibly high. If this referendum were to fail, the first thing I do is recommend that we rush back to the voters as fast as legally possible to try to get them to reconsider, because the pain that's felt throughout our schools will be very real, and I think at that point people will regret any failure to vote yes for this if they care about our schools and our kids.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Other questions? Mrs. Andrews?
Thank you, and I've heard everyone in here tonight, and truly it is all about the children. But I've spent quite a bit of time with legal, and there's some legal implications in here. I heard Ms. Brill just a minute ago mention a couple, but I'd like for our general counsel to talk about some of the legal implications of why this ballot language is as it is, which causes us to kind of look at it from this standpoint and possibly move forward.
Thank you, Mrs. Andrews, for that question. As you all know, we sought a legal opinion from the law firm of Greenberg Trarg, mainly because they are and have been our financial bond counsel and have been our advisors and our legal representatives in the area of school finance for as far back as I can remember in this district. This is their specialty, this is their strong suit, and this is what this district and this board relies on them for. In seeking that opinion, they issued an over 10-page legal opinion that's very detailed, that describes and analyzes the statutory issues involved in this decision. I will briefly summarize it by saying that the authority of the school board is to issue this tax is found under District School Tax Statute 101.1.71(9). This is the discretionary additional millage levy that Mrs. Brill referenced. The charter school funding statute found in 1002.3317B lists specifically those funds that the district is to specifically share with charter schools. The Florida legislature expressly limits the funding of students enrolled in a charter school to 3 sources. It does not include the current operating discretionary millage that we are moving forward on in this particular ballot. Therefore, these funds are not included in the required sharing to charter schools under the Florida legislative scheme. This is set forth by the state legislature. This is the law, and this is the law that has been provided to this board for their consideration in making this decision.
Thank you. Any other questions? I do need to say something, because this whole issue is so troubling, because I have been and lived in the charter school world, and I know how desperate the needs are. At the same time, it really, really frustrates me, the limitations that we have. And, I heard two people say something about we can't pick and choose. Some of this money that we're talking about is being recommended to go for fine arts. We have a lot of charter schools that are virtual charter schools that don't offer any arts programs whatsoever. And it's kind of hard to imagine how we can give them money for something that they will not be providing. It also frustrates me tremendously, and I think I've been rather outspoken about my opposition to how the charter schools law was originally written and implemented, and now it's being taken over by big business for-profit companies. If we have this money available and it goes to charter schools, there is no assurance in this world that a single penny of that money would ever be seen at any one of the individual schools. It could end up all being sent to the for-profit companies and used the way they want it to be used. I do question some of the parents and wonder how much they know about the operation of the charter school. I wonder how many of these parents have ever attended a governing board meeting of a charter school, especially these for-profit companies that have governing boards that don't even exist in the state of Florida. Some of them are in Palm Beach County. These people are all over, and some of their board meetings are held by telephone. So having public access to board meetings with them is a little self-serving, and it's frustrating. On the other side of it, I have worked with so many of the principals in charter schools in this county, and I've seen some people do some amazing, amazing things. And it really is frustrating that we're in this position. Two things that I think the public needs to be aware. The first one is everything that you heard tonight about how we're not actually raising taxes, we're trying to recover what was taken away, is not Palm Beach County's issue. That issue lays flatly at the feet of people in Tallahassee who have chosen not to make public education a priority. And the second part is the fact that the state of Florida, the legislature, has enabled the growth of charter schools to become business, not education. And some of the lawsuits that we heard about today that we lost because we challenged the state's authority on some of these decisions, but we lost some of them and we won some of them. But we lost because we had to follow the law, and we didn't see any changes in state law as a result of the problems we had. So with all of that being said, it's frustrating. We're in a no-win situation with the charter school issue, but I'm not willing to spend money unless I knew it went to those schools and those students in those schools. And since there's no assurance that one penny of that money would be used the way we expect it to be used, I just can't go with that. I do agree with Mrs. Brill 100% that I hope we can find a way that we can deal with the safety issues with charter schools, and I think the board has been pretty clear that we'd like to see some options on how we deal with that. So any other comments? If not, we'll, Dr. Robinson.
I agree, I think, with every word I've heard my colleagues say. I've watched this shortchanging take place, as many of you have, and suffered from it, right? And while the needs were growing and the expectations were increasing, right? And so we just, we've had one arm tied behind our back in some respects. And so it was, in a sense, public dollars taken away, and so we're just asking that public dollars be reinstated, and unfortunately, this is the route that we're looking to take. You know, and I have to say that I've been a long-standing advocate for increasing teacher pay, and everybody here knows that I have been talking about the mental health issues of young people that we must address, which in my mind is a linchpin for addressing safety. Unfortunately, this recent tragedy, more than others, has caused the outcry to make sure that we are physically hardening the schools. And we just cannot do it. We cannot live up to expectations with one arm tied behind our back. I agree wholeheartedly, though, that we do need to find ways to facilitate improved safety for all the students, whether they're in the regular publics or the charter schools. But having said that, I support the recommendation as presented.
Mrs. Andrews?
I think we learned something tonight in listening to one another. And if this moves tonight with all the entire board, we have to correct some of the information that we heard here. I think we haven't talked to one another the way we need to be talking to one another and explaining what happens as it relates to the school district as well as charter school, public charter schools. We've got to come together. And over these next few months, we've got to do a better job with that, because as I listened to information in here tonight, I heard some things, and I just know that we haven't been talking to one another, and so we're going to have to work on that.
All right. If there are no other questions, we'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. That concludes our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mrs. Andrews, second by Dr. Robinson. All in favor? All opposed? We stand adjourned. Well, I think we're 3 hours.